Hello, this is the third video in a series of trainings for the 2020 Durham point-in-time count. This video is going to talk about how to conduct interviews. The first step to conducting an interview starts with how you approach and introduce yourself to people you encounter. Make sure you are genuine, warm, and open when you say hello and introduce yourself. Make sure to avoid labeling people as homeless. That is, don't approach someone and say, "Hey, are you homeless?" There is a stigma around this term, meaning many people who may be experiencing homelessness might not want to identify as homeless. Instead, ask about where they are sleeping that night. Be respectful and ask if they have a few minutes to talk. Asking where someone is sleeping tonight or where they are planning to sleep tonight is a better way of asking than if they have a safe place to sleep. Many people experiencing unsheltered homelessness feel where they are sleeping is safe, and some will explain they feel safer at their campsite than in a shelter. You may want to conduct interviews in pairs, with one person asking the questions on the survey and the second person recording the answers in the mobile app. This allows the first person to maintain better eye contact. We offer everyone who completes at least part of the survey a gift card to a local establishment that is accessible to people experiencing homelessness. When you're asking if they want to participate, you can say, "If you're willing to answer my questions, I've got a gift card to a location in the community." We also may have some backpacks with non-perishable food items and other items that may be given to people who complete the survey. We also may have donated hats, blankets, and gloves which can be given to anyone who needs them, including those who do not want to answer the point-in-time count survey questions. After you've introduced yourself, explain that the point-in-time count survey, explain what it is, and ask if they are willing to answer your questions. It's extremely important to explain what you're doing and to get the person's consent or permission to participate before you start asking questions and recording their responses to the survey. Remember, everyone has a right to refuse to participate. The box at the bottom of this slide has an example of how you can do this. Please read the questions on the survey in the mobile app as they are written. Do not say them in your own words. Do not presume you know the answer, and ask the question in a way that suggests you know the answer. For example, ask, "What is your gender?" not "You're male, aren't you?" Or for another example, "What is your race?" and not "Are you African American?" As you move into the health-related questions, reiterate that the person can say pass to any question that they prefer not to answer. You could say something like, "This next set of questions may be uncomfortable to answer. If you prefer to not answer any particular question, just say pass or I prefer not to answer," and we'll move on to the next question. Also, please record what the person says accurately. For example, the response "don't know" is recorded when the person says "I don't know" in response to a particular question. The response "refused" is for when the person opts out of answering a question, says pass or something like that. When you're done with your questions, thank the person for their time, give them an incentive item, and guide to services in Durham. If you are unable to complete the form online while talking in person, use your notes to complete the process online after finishing the other surveys and enter the data once you have a safe, stable place to work. Before you move to the next question, make sure you have filled in all the fields or made note that the person preferred not to answer that question. The observation form should only be used for people you are not able to interview, so do not fill out Do not fill one out for people you talk to and complete the survey with. We also ask on the survey form for you to fill out as much detail as possible about the person you are observing. This will help us to determine two things. First, your description of what they look like and where they are will help us figure out whether or not that person has already been counted by another volunteer. So after we've gotten all of the survey and observation forms back from the point in time count, we look to see if we see a description of someone wearing the same clothes or sleeping in a similar location on multiple forms. If there are multiple forms that seem to be counting the same person, the rest of the description will make it easier to tell whether it was the same person counted twice or two totally different people who were counted once. Second, your description of where they are, what they are doing, and what makes you think they may or may not be experiencing homelessness will help us determine whether or not to count that person as homeless. By HUD's definition for the point in time count, so for example, if you write that you saw someone sleeping on a park bench at 2 a.m., that would reasonably tell us that the person is experiencing homelessness. If the person is awake, you will introduce yourself and explain why you are there and ask if they will take a few minutes to answer some questions. If they refuse, you can complete the observation survey based on what you could see. The details will be covered in the next slide. When you fill out the actual observation form, we want to know as much as possible about what you were able to see. As we discussed earlier, this will help us to determine whether or not the person has been counted more than once by other volunteers, and it will help us determine whether or not they will meet that definition of homelessness that we talked about in the very beginning of this training. We want you to include as much detail as possible about what they look like, what they are wearing, what they have with them or near them, and why there was no survey completed with them. We want to know what makes you think they are or are not experiencing homelessness. This concludes the third video training for the 2020 point in time count. Please complete the subsequent trainings in this series in order to prepare you for the count. Thank you.